summarized by a couple of things, right? Let's put that down once again together. Number one, okay, the main idea is always going to involve, right, key characters. Does that make sense, everyone? So if you go ahead and find out who is in the story, then what they do is largely likely going to be the main idea, isn't it? Right? I mean, if I, for example, everybody here knows a little bit about Harry Potter, so we can use that as an example, right? Harry Potter goes to Hogwarts, right? And there's many things that happen there. So everything that happened, right, in a particular time frame, you will find Harry Potter or the Harry Potter, let's say people that he knew or classmates, okay, or like they all go to the school like in different faculties and stuff. Is everybody with me so far? So everything in the story, if you want to pinpoint it and actually specifically talks about it, is not going to get away very far from Harry Potter and all the other major characters. Are we following so far, everyone? Right? So that is a little demonstration of how when you find the key person, you're pretty close, right, in terms of identifying what happened in the story. So that is important. And something else, right? I would like to give credit to Serena for mentioning that. There's always going to be details, correct, everybody? So where else or what else do we focus on in order to find this main idea? We tend to go and find, right, very specific, right? Let's put down details. And what exactly is the details? How we make sure to take the notes, okay? What exactly is the details that belong to the descriptions? Does it make sense, everyone? All right, so for example, I want to know what happened in the story. And let's say in the story, two people had an argument. Well, two people had an argument. Sure, that could be the main idea. But in order to further support my understanding of the story, right? Number one, those two people, who are they? Does it make sense, everyone? So if we want to further go into the details, we will have to identify who are we talking about, right? Who are having the arguments in this story? And number two, all right, what are some of the details or descriptions when they're having their arguments, right? Is this because one person kind of say something provocative and hurtful to another person, and then the other person start to react, and then that's how they got into an argument? Maybe, right? So if you have something specific, that's always going to be helpful. With me so far, everyone? Okay, so those two things, right, are going to be pretty key in terms of how and where do we get the main idea out. Okay, and number two, let's continue, everyone. So something else that I'm expecting everybody to do, right? Expectation for intensive reading. Number two is that you can understand, for example, this little question: which parts matter more? Which parts matter more? Now, this is an interesting question. So I'm going to first of all give this to you. What do you think this is asking about? Why do we have to find out in a particular? It's the same story, but why is some part mattering a little bit more than the other? How do we make sense of that?
Because so you want to ask which part matters more?
Or why is there going to be a question like this, right? If there were the same
Like the
story,
main, yeah, like the main parts really matter more.
that will be what is the main part. But good try was the question, okay? And I probably will go ahead and ask Howie, right, to give it a try as well. They are all in the same story, but why usually sometimes we say, oh, this part is actually more important than that part? How do we make sense of this? Why is there going to be a difference? Isn't that all in the same story? It is. However, what do you think? Mhm. Yeah.
Something more important, like some parts, like you something that tells something more important, like a problem.
Okay, all right. For example, a problem will stand out to be something that you focus on when you're reading. That's a very good point, right, everybody? So what parts matter more? For example, there's a 10-page of this story that you're reading. Do you pay equal attention to everything that happens within this 10 pages, Serena? Do you? Do you pay attention? Do you pay equal attention to every single thing that happens in the story? Or do you go into, or are you going to, right, specifically focus on some parts a little bit more?
I focus on some parts, and those parts are the ones that are more important, like ones that more relate to the main topic.
Very good. Okay, the ones that are related a little bit more to the main topic, and which part matters more. All right, in this case, right, there's a new little thing that is upcoming, so guys, make sure that you're taking down the notes. So here, right, which part matters more? Why do we have a talk like that? Is because we need to make sure, right, some, let's say some sections of the stories deserve more attention. Why? Is because number one, all right, they contribute more to the main idea. Does that make sense, everyone? All right. So for example, there's always going to be major things that happen, minor things that happen. So for example, right, still the same like example that we talked about before, two people were having an argument, okay? And then there's something else in the story, right? There's something else in the story. For example, A and B had an argument, and A usually goes to bed at 10 and then wakes up at 7 a.m. Howie, do you think we should pay attention to this little example as heavily as we pay attention to A and B is having a fight? Do you think the information about when A goes to bed and when A wakes up is as important as the fact that A and B has a fight? Which one do you think is more related to the main idea? The fight, exactly, right, everybody? So we can see a little bit of the difference. We do not pay attention to the daily routine of A that much, unless something about what A does every day has something to do with the fight. Does that make sense? Right? Or for example, A loves seafood. Does that has anything to do with he and B had a fight? Everyone? Not much, right? So do we pay enough attention and must memorize that A loves eating seafood? We don't. We good, everyone? So especially when you're reading something that's a bit longer, right? You wouldn't have that much of the room as well for you to possess or for you to progress all of those information with equal attention. So one thing that I would like to, this is able to be trained and this is able to be fostered. So we have to develop a little mindset, right? Whenever we're reading through something, number one thing is that we understand perfectly of what deserves more attention. Does that make sense, everyone? And the premise of doing that is because we understand what is the main idea and how do we find this main idea. So we're so good, everyone? Okay, so that is also something that is very important. Number three, and so far the last point that I would like to go ahead and talk about, right? What do we focus on? Number three, I'm gonna go ahead and say, this is related to sentence structure, okay, plus word choices. That's going to be something else that I would like everybody to have a little bit more understanding of. So when I'm thinking about, or when I'm talking about sentence structure, right? So you have heard about this term before. Do you know what that refers to? Sentence structure? Not much? Maybe Howie, want to give it a try? Sentence structure? Do you think there's only one way of writing the sentence? No. Okay, do you think there's a limitation over how many ways of sentence writing that exist out there? Or do you think there's unlimited number of ways that exist out there? What do you think? Unlimited, limited, or unlimited? Is it okay?
There's not too many.
Okay, all right. There's not too many. Serena, what do you think?
I think there's a lot, but not like too many.
Okay.
I think it's limited, but there's still a lot.
Okay, there's still a lot. So good writers. See, I'm gonna ask you this question. Do you think good writers, when they write, they primarily use one way of let's say writing the sentences, or do you think good writers will always use many different ways of writing sentences?
Many different ways to write sentences.
Very good, everybody. Okay, so in that case, Another follow-up question for Howie in this case, right? When it comes down to the word choice, if say I have a great word, right, and I'm gonna use this word 10 times in the same paragraph, do you think that's what good writers will do? No, right? So what's the point here, everybody, is that the sentence structure and answer, and let's say the word choices are, let's say, multiple, right? There's multiple variations that exist there. Does that make sense, everybody? I'm gonna specifically focus on this multiple variation is because they change so much, and good writers never use just one single way of how I write a sentence or what word choices that I use, because the word choices refer to vocabulary. Does that make sense, everybody? Right? So if we want to become good readers and in the end become, well, competent good writers, we need to make sure we are not limited to understand how